it's my absolute pleasure to introduce our first guest today, Steve Superkick Vick. Steve, thanks very much for coming to the show and taking your time out.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Steve, we might as well start with the Taekwondo. You did that starting from a young age. How long did you do Taekwondo for?
I was 13 when I got into Taekwondo. Did it for 5 years. And then really the last year or so was when I started to get into kickboxing. I was inspired by some of the guys like Benny the Jet and saw this professional karate and kickboxing style coming through. So that inspired me to get into kickboxing and National Martial Arts League as well.
Steve was actually the very first to come out with the gold pants and the flashy robes, and oddly enough, in the 80s people didn't have that big vision of where the sport was going. I thought you and Wayne had it pretty much sorted out, but they absolutely hated you for it.
Yeah, well, I guess I probably was never really the rough, tough sort, you know, that the sport was probably dominated with back then, and I knew that and understood that, and I guess for me to really stand out, rather than go and get some tattoos or shave my head or anything like that, I may as well go the other way. It was the 80s, and we all had the Duran Duran hairstyles and all that sort of thing. So I just thought I'd dress it up and perhaps do a little bit of self-marketing in that sense.
Some of those fights you had were great, like when you fought Grant Keneally, Alex Toohey, like they were absolute wars, and they were still at the stage where everyone hated you. I remember the night when you fought Alex, you went 9 rounds, you got carried out of the ring. There was still some idiot trying to abuse you as you were getting carried out. But in time, when you started fighting men like Ronnie D, Paul Grimer twice, Tony DiCasio, and you started beating those blokes, the crowd slowly went your way, and by the time you won that world title, everyone loved you.
Yeah, I think it's like with anything, over time you build up a bit of a following, and although we were flashy, I think that all of us, and certainly all the guys that I trained with, were all very nice, humble people, and we tried to retain that, and we really respected all of the other fighters, and I think the whole industry, the industry as a whole back then, all of the fighters, I think it's fair to say, had a very healthy respect. There was none of that real animosity. There was no stuff going on, outside the ring or anything like that. So it was a nice time. We respected other people. I think we got that respect back in time as well.
Yeah, Steve, I think we've got a few highlights when you're fighting Chinto Modelo, and that's when you won the world title at City Hall. Can you tell us about that and the euphoria that went through? Yeah,
for me, and I think like a lot of athletes when they're on the mature end of their career, for me, it was an 11-year journey. I was training and fighting, competing for 11 years all up. By the time I won the world title, I was ranked number 2 in the world for the last 4 years. So by the time I got from number 2 to number 1, I pretty much didn't have much left in the tank. So I never left a drop left in the ring, really. Gave it everything. I won the world title that night and have never stepped foot back in the ring or the gym ever since.
What we're going to do now, Steve, we're going to say adieu for the moment. Thanks very much for coming on. It was great having you here.
Jimmy.
And it was just good to hear your story, because it's the sort of story when someone's sort of down and they're getting beaten on and insulted, and they rise to the top but still say, have a lot of humility about it, and that's what you've done in my eyes, at least anyway. So Steve, thanks again, mate, for coming on.
You're welcome.